The atmosphere in competitive dance is different, I think, than anyone could ever expect, especially at the collegiate level. In high school, these kids get competitions from November until May in high school dance team. And then in college, we get one time. And so the emotions are high, it's super intense. It's cheer and dance, which is an interesting dynamic because dancers aren't like cheerleaders and cheerleaders aren't like dancers. And I think for dancers, especially dancers who aren't used to that environment, it can be really overwhelming. But I remember my first year going, I felt like I just stepped into the movie of Bring It On. There's people flying through the air, stunts all over the place, mainly from the cheer perspective. And then the dancers have to kind of fit into that, if that makes sense. I think that dance team in comparison, so studio, you're starting at the foundational level. And at least in college dance team, you're getting these kids at the peak of their physical capabilities. And then how can you increase that, enhance it, and make them more athletic? I think that's one of the biggest differences is that college dance is extremely athletic, kind of almost, maybe not gymnastics based, but there's a lot of tricks that are involved in doing college dance. And then just the stamina that it takes to do football games, basketball games, the different environments that you're in are unlike anything that you do in studio. In studio, you're usually on a stage or on Marley, it's exactly how dance was meant to be. And in college dance team, the surfaces are all over the place. The environments, 360 degrees in a football stadium is very different than on a stage where your judges are right in front of you. So in that way, it's a bit different. When I came in, I was kind of charged with just completely changing the identity or creating an identity. I think that was the biggest challenge for me to start. Coming to Texas, it's obvious I'm from West Virginia, so it's a very different culture, and then coming to West Texas was a different culture as well. And so trying to figure out how we fit into the game day, how do we fit into a national scenario. I think one thing that makes Texas Tech special is that they are invested in us being great at all things. They're not interested in us just being a competitive team. They're not interested in us just being a game day team. They want us to do everything, and that was something that really pulled me to coming to Texas Tech. It took us a really long time to develop an identity in getting dancers, well-trained dancers, how do we highlight them? When I first started at Texas Tech, they only danced on the sidelines. And then we partnered with the band and we started dancing in the end zone. And then finally we got to dance on the field and do hip hop and jazz and things that I think really made the girls feel like they were doing what they were trained in. And ever since then, I think we've been able to build that momentum into being a more competitive team on a national level. And I think that's one of the draws of our program is that it is set up more like a studio program than just a solid dance team regimen. I think one of the beautiful things about studios is that you are encouraged to learn all styles. And I have been telling even in my contemporary classes at Texas Tech, the more you can expose yourself to, the more you have to pull from when you are trying to learn other people's choreography or be a choreographer. You have all these different elements to pull from. And so I think a lot of people, because of Instagram, because of social media, tend to look at the cool tricks and they just rep them. They'll just do them over and over, and that's how they get hurt. And you shouldn't be coming into college hurt. You see where I'm going with that? So being in a studio is really important to learning the foundation and the terminology and the history and those types of things so that when you get to college, you can build on that rather than having to feel like you're starting at ground zero. Every single time I teach a class, especially with ones that are geared towards the dance majors, whether they're a BA, BFA, that's kind of besides the point for me. I always, maybe not in COVID years, but in typical years, I give them a note card and I have them write down what do you want to do? What is your end game? How can I help you get to that place where you're gonna be a successful professional? I don't wanna just teach them random things. I wanna help them get into whatever field that they're trying to get into. And I think it depends on the program of study for sure. Different people want different things. You can be a performer, and I think that takes another, route of what kind of performer do you want to be? Do you want to be in a company? Do you want to be in LA where you're working as a commercial dancer? Or do you want to go to New York where it's more like Broadway and stage type of dancing? And then I think a lot of our students want to be teachers, or they want to be directors of dance teams, because Texas is so drill team heavy. There's a drill team at every single high school. And so most of these kids, I think, want to end up teaching in high school or teaching in college and then running or directing a team or directing a studio. What's gonna make you stand out? How are you gonna get the job over someone else? And to me, that happens in class. It happens in the detail, it happens in your focus, and I always tell them, keep the wheels turning. Like, never let the wheels stop turning. Because I know for me, what I thought my life was gonna look like and what it actually looks like is very different. But part of that was because I never stopped kind of pursuing what was right in front of me, and I never said no. I always said yes to every opportunity that was given to me, and I never really knew like which way or which door that was going to open. I always said I would try any type of dance one time, and if I didn't like it, I would move on. Being back in Daytona at Nationals this year after a year off from COVID, it was almost kind of an out-of-body experience to see how people were looking at us and at me in a way that I don't feel like I've seen before. But I think taking a step back and then stepping back into it, I realized how much of an impact we have on other people, on other teams, on other coaches.